started owning foxes in 2014, and it's just something that I'd always dreamed about, I'd always wanted. I did lots of research on them, and then in 2017 I started with raccoons as well, and I also started rescuing about that time. Well, I started, I had a Facebook page and an Instagram, and I would just post pictures and educational stuff. I've always loved to educate. And basically it got to where I was Evian's Adventures or Oi's Adventures, and then I was 2 foxes and a raccoon, and then I was like, it got to the point to where I was like 3 foxes and 2 raccoons, and I was like, I can't just keep calling myself these things. So I basically reached out to a group of friends of mine that we actually all run sanctuaries now, and we all started out as private owners. So I reached out to them and I'm like, so I need something permanent, because changing my Instagram name constantly is just annoying me, and coming up with something permanent would be a great idea. So basically they all threw in their ideas based on me. They knew me, they knew my personality, they knew what I did, and they threw in all these things. And then at the end of the day they were like, we like this one. And I was like, that sounds good, I like that one, we're good. So it just kind of was something given to me, I didn't choose it. So in 2019, I was reached out to by a dog rescue that they mainly deal with double merles. So they do a lot of Aussies and a lot of border collies that are double merles, meaning they have vision and hearing issues due to that gene. And they had actually found a fox for sale on Craigslist. And it's illegal to sell foxes on Craigslist, by the way, but they knew that this animal needed help, and they had experience with difficult dogs, so they, tried to help this fox. Well, they soon realized that foxes were a little more difficult than a double merle Aussie or a double merle of any sort, for that matter, any dog. And so they found me, and they were, wanting to do all the rescue things. They wanted to do a home inspection and things, and I'm like, look, I have rabies vector species, and I really can't have you at the house. I don't know you. What if you were to get bit? And so they agreed to meet me outside of the sanctuary, which wasn't a sanctuary at the time. And we spoke and, had a cup of coffee, and they finally were like, well, can you take him? We want you to take him. I have him with me. Just down the road, if you just come follow me and take him. And they said, but why haven't you started a sanctuary yet? It sounds like what you're doing is already being a sanctuary, because at that point in 2019 I had already taken in several rehomed animals that needed me. I've taken in a couple that were being sold illegally. I talked to them and explained the situation. I didn't pay for them, they were given to me to get them out of harm's way. Some of them didn't even have permits to own, and I had to work through that, because a lot of the animals we take in require permits. And when she asked me that question, I have anxiety. I know it doesn't show, but when she asked me that question, I didn't have an answer, because technically I was already doing the things that a sanctuary does. I was just doing them as a private sector, as a private person. And it just stuck me. I couldn't get that question out of my head for days and days and days. So I reached out to one of my board members, who's my vice president, and I said, hey, Taylor, I just can't get this question out of my head, and I really, what do you think? And she was like, yes, and I'm going to be there with you. We're gonna get it done. And it kind of snowballed from there, and we started EPW in October of 2019. I think I spoke to the rescue in August. So it wasn't long before we just got all the paperwork filled out and went through all that. And by April, we had our 501c3. It was backdated to October, but because of COVID, because that was during COVID time, they didn't give me my actual paperwork until April. So just kind of spitballed from me being a private owner to taking in rescues, because I was experienced and knew what I was doing and could provide that home. And then, well, I needed to be more than what I was. I couldn't continue doing it just myself. We take in mostly captive bred wildlife, class 2 species that are legal to own in Tennessee. The permit's super easy to get, and a lot of people have gotten to the point to where they see them, they're cute, they can get the permit right away, and they just buy them on impulse. So we take in red foxes, gray foxes. We also have Arctics, which are legal to own without a permit in Tennessee, so that makes them even easier target for that. We have raccoons, bobcats, opossums, coyote, anything like that that requires a permit to own in Tennessee, we are able to take. We take in some reptiles. We have to be very careful with that though, because reptiles require such different homes. I can't just have a random cage set up and ready for any reptile. It has to be set up, like he requires high humidity, but say we got a bearded dragon in, a bearded dragon would require a different size enclosure, different humidity. So there's so many different things we have to be kind of picky with those. And there are other reptile rescues, so we try to put, give them our support and work with them versus us just focusing on them.
Tarantulas too recently.
Yes, we have dove into tarantulas. We were reached out to by a local pet store that couldn't take they have a policy when it comes to tarantulas. If the tarantula happens to have an egg sac, they have to destroy it, and because they didn't want to do that, we accepted her and hatched all her babies out. And now we have, I think, 16 lived.
That's a lot.
16 tiny baby tarantulas. We help out when people need to surrender. We also do a whole lot of education trying to help people understand what they're getting into. So we get a lot of questions about that. We get a lot of questions with owners that already have the animals, and we help with that as well. Since, we do have some experience, we don't know everything, but sometimes it's better to talk to somebody who's been doing it a few years. We board when needed if someone has an exotic that they might not be able to take care of currently, but will in the future, and they just want it held temporarily. We have one boarded with us now that the owner needed to get some things done. Her life took a turn and she had to work to get it back on track, and so he's been boarding with us.
So more recently, and I'm very enthusiastic about this, is that our website, exoticpetwonderland.org, is now like the top source on the internet for raccoon care information and coyote care. And so we have just all of these care guides, and people have been using them, and they're like at the top of Google. So we understand that a lot of times people want to buy these animals on impulse, and we can't stop people. We can't say don't buy a fox, because they're not going to listen to us. They're going to do it anyways. So our goal is to put that information out there, put that accurate, honest information out there, so that they can make an informed decision. Or if they already have an animal, then they can just have that information easily.
Yes, they can try to up their care to that information and help out, give the animal the best life. My number one goal has always been information. It's always been educating others. That's where I started in 2016. I started educating majorly, and that's kind of how I ended up with the rehomes, is people would say, hey, look, you've got a fox and you're doing well with the fox and you're educating others about the fox, so you seem to know what you're doing. Can you take my fox that I didn't research for and can't take care of? Or, hey, I'm having to move to an illegal state, or things like that. So we try to help out with that, and we try to have the most up-to-date information about legalities as well. So you can go on the website and say you're looking into an animal. You can find out if it's legal before you get it, because we get a lot of people messaging us after the fact saying, hey. So a Class 2 species in Tennessee, and every state's different. So in Class 2 for Tennessee is a native species. So it'd be something that you could find in the wild. I can't touch wild ones, I have to work with rehabbers on that. But a Class 2 species is a native species that's being bred in captivity. So it's all your, your foxes, your raccoons, your
Coyotes, bobcats, opossums,
bobcats,
minks,
squirrels,
groundhogs,
minks, groundhogs, things like that require porcupines. That require that permit to own, and it's a permit you have to work with TWA to get. It's not too difficult to get, but it is a permit, so that's something that you can't just go to the pet store and buy these animals. You actually have to fill out the paperwork and pay a yearly fee.
So Tennessee is unique in the way that we have very lax exotic pet laws. So people can go out and they can just buy an Arctic fox, no permit, or they can get a permit and go buy a coyote. And the ease of access and the availability of these animals is causing an increase in the ownership of them. So Tennessee is unique in the way that they have the need for this service. There are so many people, buying exotic pets who realize, hey, I can't take care of this. This is maybe not the best pet for me, or I'm moving somewhere where I can no longer have it. And then they have to find a sanctuary to give it to, because you can't resell these animals without a USDA permit. Some people do, of course, but it's hard to stop. But there's nowhere for them to go, so there is that unique need, and we are here to fill that gap.
Yeah, animal shelters are just not equipped to care for these sort of animals. So anytime animals are going to be owned, anytime someone's selling animals, there's always going to be a need for someone to help out with the ones that people have, things happen in their life. Not everyone is a bad owner. It's just sometimes things happen. And, well, those are sometimes the hardest cases for us to take, because the person loves the animal, but they just can't take care of them anymore. So we want to provide them the best home we can and help out that person that may have done their research, may have done everything right, and just can't take care of them anymore. Well, we all work as a team. So we have days where we work mostly with paintings, and it's always helpful to have somebody help out when I'm helping with paintings, because, well, we're all going to get covered in paint anyways. The animals enjoy it, and it's just something, it's easier with more people. We have social media needs that I can't keep up with it all. And
yeah, unfortunately, we're a very small team at the moment because, due to legal liability issues and USDA regulations, we can't have volunteers come in and actually work with the animals, because they are, legally speaking, still considered wild animals. So there's a lot of liability issues there that we are trying to work around and deal with. So right now it's, Lindsay, the director, our vice president, Taylor, Ariel, who's our curator, and then me, who's the registrar and communications manager. So and Tim, who's our, construction person / your husband. We are, at the moment, though, trying to find more volunteers to help us out with communications needs, so content writing, website management, graphics design, video editing, because we really would like to get out and start making more educational video content and move on to YouTube as well.
That and events. We have people that come and help when we do, events where the animals make so many paintings, I don't know what to do with them. So we show up to, exotic expos and whatnot.
And Comic-Cons.
Comic-Cons. Places where, we're welcome, and we set up educational booths talking about what we do, and we sell merchandise because, well, it became down to the animals love doing this, but I don't have enough room on walls to put them, so we can throw them away or we can sell the animals things, and it's a win-win. A lot of people hear the word sanctuary, and sometimes it gives people a bad taste in their mouth. And there's good sanctuaries and bad sanctuaries, but a lot of times people say, oh, you're a sanctuary. So you get funded by all these people and you just sit around and play with these animals all day, and that's not the case. I still work 60 hours a week full time, and she still has a full-time job, and we all contribute to the sanctuary. Another thing is we're just out to take people's animals, and we're not. Like, we want to help you to keep your animal. If you have the animal and you have the willingness to try to step up your game.
We're full.
We don't want any more animals. If we can help you to keep your animal, that's our main goal. Also, we've had people that have reached out to us, and for whatever reason, sometimes accidents happen, just like dogs and cats that get lost. We've had foxes that have gotten lost, not from us particularly, but when they get lost, we want to help people to be able to find them, so we'll help. I've set traps for people to help find their foxes before, and try to get that worked up. We want to do more to help owners than we do take their animals, and a lot of people don't see that. A lot of people just see, oh, well, you're a sanctuary, you just want to take my animal, you don't want to help me with the animal, you see me in a bad light. And we're actually pro ownership. We do not have anything against people owning these animals. We just want people to own them responsibly. So we want to help people to be educated and make the right choice and do things the right way for the best of the animals, because people are going to own these animals regardless. We'd rather them be owned responsibly versus them being turned loose into the wild because the people are tired of them and don't know what to do with them.
I think another misconception that we face is, so we work very closely with the TWRA, which is the Tennessee Wildlife Resource Agency. If they know that there's a fox that needs a home or something, they contact us. But a lot of people believe that we are getting some kind of government funding or some kind of government grants, state grants, and we're not. We are totally funded by ourselves and our donors, and I don't think a lot of people really understand that.